Alright, let's just jump right into it. Let's go ahead and look around a little bit. Where are we? Oh my god, it looks like almost like a creeper face on that temple. Let's walk over here. Looks like there's somebody standing over here. Old man, he's a temple native. Let's right click on him and see what he has to say. It says, "Greetings, adventurer. Are you here to save us?" Let's go ahead and answer that. What happened here? He says, "The Python King has cursed this place with his poison, plunging our land into darkness." Ouch. "You must help us. Legend has it that these ruins lead to the Lost Valley. Find the Python Temple hidden deep inside the valley and destroy the Python King before it's too late. The path before you will not be easy. Only a true codologist will survive. Use your wits and trusty code to solve each challenge. Good luck." Oh my god. That is a lot to take in. Let's go ahead and move around a bit. I see a chest over here. And some nice apples. And some steak. I'm definitely going to need some of this. Let's go ahead and look around. Now, there doesn't look like any way in. Maybe try some of these vines right here. And, oh, whoop. Nope. Almost. Let's try one more time. Maybe I'll get lucky. And, no, there's definitely no way up there. So let's go ahead and read some of these signs here at the bottom. It says, number 1, use Python to place a gold block. Here's another sign that says, stand on the emerald block before running Python. So I guess this block right here at the bottom, this emerald block, it represents the block I need to run my code on. Let's walk over here. mc.setBlock. Now I think that's a kind of a clue as to what we'll be doing with our first obstacle. So after looking around, I don't think there's anywhere else for us to go. So let's go ahead and start our first code. Let's stand on the emerald block like it said. And let's quickly switch from Minecraft, pressing escape, into our Notepad++ editor. And now before we begin our coding, let's actually talk about an important factor in coding, and that is the importance of syntax. What syntax is, you can think of it as grammar in language. You have punctuation, capitalization, spacing, and just formatting overall. Now this does apply as well in programming language. Now I'll explain what that means right now. So right now we have in front of us our first program called our basic program, and it places a single gold block in a game for us. Now we'll notice it's straight typed out, and we do have some capitalizations. For example, on line number 5, if you look at the capital M here, it is capitalized. Now if we do write it as a lowercase, it would actually return as an error in the system, as it is expecting an uppercase Minecraft. Another one would be for when you're defining your variables. Here we did player pos. Now it is a common exercise to use anytime you use a combination of words like player pos, player position, or player set, that anytime you combine two words, the second word, its first letter would be uppercase. For example, another would be mc.player.set pos. Now if you notice right there, I capitalized the P. Now it's important we continue using that P capitalized throughout our code. If not, we would return an error, or it would think that's a different command for the program language. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And so we have various capitalizations. Now if I double click the word player position or player pos, you'll notice I can't keep track of all the different player positions. We have one here, here, and here, and they all have, make sure we have our second capital P on them. That way we won't return any errors. Another common thing to learn about syntax in Python programming or programming in general is our commas, or when you're telling a difference between two different arguments. So for example, here we have MC set block. This expects a total of 4 inputs or 4 arguments. We give it our first argument here, x, and then we divide that argument, or we separate it with a comma. And you notice we have commas throughout. And this divides the arguments. This would be our first one, which would be the x value. This one right here between these two commas, it would be our y, and so forth. We have our z between this one, and our last argument, which is expecting the block ID, would be either a number, which would be an integer, or the actual block name. So this is the reason we have commas. If we did not, and we just kept it all the way through, and even used spaces, we'd be thrown back with an error, as it would expect this whole line as one type of input, and obviously that's not, we have never defined anything like that. It would be quite confused. So this is the reason we keep our commas in between our code. Now, you're actually all are allowed to keep spaces in between them, so you can either have them joined like that, or you can have them spaced out throughout. But as long as there is a comma that defines that there is a space or there's a break between two different arguments, that is the most important thing to learn. So just to review, make sure you want to keep on track with your capitalization, which will be capitalization throughout all their code. Make sure you want to keep track of also your punctuation, which would be would either be your periods or your commas. Now, I didn't go over periods, so I'll backtrack a little bit and talk about periods. On the periods we have here between mc.player.getPosition it means it's an extension of that function. So we're saying Minecraft, which belongs to this whole this code right here, this variable, and we're going to extend it to the player function, and then we're going to extend even that one even further to get the position of the player. So this is the reason we use dots, or we use periods. Now we also have our player position here. We notice we use periods as well. We have player position dot x, player position dot y, and player position dot z. So the dot x, dot y, and dot z are extensions, or I want to know just that value specifically from the player position, because player position returns a coordinate set of 3, and we just need one of each, so one for the x, y, and z. Because if we didn't have that, we just put player position x, player position y, and player position z without any dots in between. It would actually think that this is all one variable. You'd be looking for player position x. We would actually have to define that player position x, and obviously that's not what we wanted to do. So I'm going to go ahead and put those periods back because those are important. Now, a common thing we've noticed in some of the code examples you'll be seeing throughout the Python temple is when lines carry over much longer than what we can see on our screen. And by that I mean we notice here we have MC set block. But sometimes we have the command MC set blocks, and I'll show you guys right now. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this MC set block and type MC.set blocks, our plural form, because this one takes actually a total of 7 inputs, 2 coordinates and a block ID. So if I type that, and I'll type player position.x, and I'll start with my second set of player positions, will be player position x again, and so forth. And for our last block ID, we'll use block.gold uppercase block. Now you'll notice already this line of code has it's extended beyond my screen of visibility, so I have to always scroll over, and this can get quite confusing sometimes because sometimes you can't see your code, or you're trying to shift over back and forth. And there are a couple ways we can fix this. There is a way we can fix this, and one of the ways is by actually spacing it to the next line. So by that I mean if I click in between anywhere on the line of code, I like to pick a perfect kind of ending point, usually right after the first set of Z, and I'll just click right after it, and I'll hit enter. Now what this says is it's going to continue the line because we have a parenthesis here. This is a function, so it's waiting for the last parentheses to close it off, because if we close it off here, then it knows it would have been finished there. But since our parentheses for this open one here is all the way down here, it knows it continues on this line of code. It knows it continues to the next space. And this is a good way for us to visualize our code, so that way it doesn't extend beyond our screen of visibility. So I'll leave that and I'll save it, and I'll show you guys that it actually works. So this is going to set a block right at our feet for our player. Actually, even though we put multiple blocks, it will still be one block. So I'll just go ahead and save that and jump into Minecraft. And here I am. Oh, okay. So I'm type PYMC. And there you know, right at my feet or inside my character was that block. And this code functions both ways. If I return it back to its original design of just having it one long line of code, save it, jump back into Minecraft. As you can see, it works both methods, and there's 2 different ways we can have visually seen our code. Obviously, one way is much easier, especially in our video where we can only extend the screen so much. You're going to notice you're going to have some lines of code that either have an arrow right here, and it would explain that that line of code continues on to the second line. Now, this always won't be true. Sometimes we'll have our while true or condition statement. So we'll have while true, colon. We will start using, let's make this one back to normal, let's say, to one single line. Now, of course, anytime we're using a conditional statement, we're going to have a tab out our code like that. Now, as you can see, this makes our code even longer sticking out to the side. So we're going to do the same thing right after the first set of Z. We're going to click on that, hit enter. And you'll notice it aligns itself with the first MC set block. So if we align it this way, it would actually be incorrect. We want to make sure our codes are lining up even within the condition statements. So we want to make sure we tab out. That way it knows it continues. So I'm going to drag my player position inside that code as well. This way we can have a block code, a block following us. So MC.player, or excuse me, player position is equal to MC.player get position function. So as you can see, I would usually have it this way, but for the sake of saving space on the screen, we're going to bring it back down, and it knows this line of code continues on to the other side. And visually, in our Python tempo videos, you're going to notice there will be an arrow here for you guys to follow, so that way you know which lines of code we would suggest that you guys bring on to the next line of code. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And let's jump back into Minecraft. Now, let's test our code out. And as you can see now, we have our player position in a loop, and the blocks are following us. Everywhere we go, we're being updated with a new block. And as you can see, this line of code would have worked either way if you had it on one line of code, or if you just had it like that, continuing on a second line of code. And we were going to notice quite of these a bit anytime our code gets too long to be visually seen on the video. Well, now that being said, just a quick review. We learned about the importance of syntax, where that means we can make sure we keep intact our formatting, whether that be the correct, excuse me. So reviewing what we just talked about, we learned the importance of syntax, and we noticed syntax is almost like the grammar or the format of our code, the importance of having periods, the importance of separation with commas, and the importance of having capitalization and following through with those capitalizations throughout your lines of code. And we also learned about code, spacing between code, and how we can separate it between a second line. Either we can have it on a single line for ourselves, or we can have it on a second line, and it will be visually seen in the video with an arrow pointing that it would suggest that you write it on the second line. Now, with that being said, you guys are ready to join into your Python tempo and begin. So let's go ahead and start typing our first code to solve our first obstacle. So let's start by using our hashtags. Now, hashtags in code, or at least in Python, are used to omit or almost comment out a line of code. So if I type anything on here, just like randomly, the computer will actually skip that line of code, and it's more used for a notation for ourselves. So just let me write our first note, which will be a step block, which is our first block. We'll be placing down to use almost like a step. On our second line of code, we're going to be writing our import, which will be import mcpy.minecraft as Minecraft. Now I'm going to explain what these two lines of code means. I'm going to write the next one down, import mcpy.block as block. Now I know that sounds very redundant, and you're probably wondering, what does that do? What does that do? Lines 2 and 3 import. What it does is it tells the code to import other functions or other libraries or other code from a different part in the Minecraft folder, and it gathers all this information. That way we can communicate between the computer and the Python in the game. So that way we can send our commands, and we can communicate back and forth, because we have to tell all the commands to the computer of what to do. And if we didn't have the set language or the set libraries, it would not understand anything. So that's really what the import is doing. So we're going to go on to the next line and type MC equals Minecraft dot uppercase Minecraft dot create. Now what this function does, the create, especially the dot create at the end, is it enables for the user to send a command, so a create type of command, either creating blocks or creating objects, and we use it as a function. Now what we did here also as well, if you notice, we said MC equals all these long lines of code. And what that is called in programming is called a variable. So anytime later on after this we use the two letters MC, it's going to represent all these lines of code right here. So it's almost shorthand because we want to be as efficient as we can when we type our code, because if I didn't use this variable, I would have to type the uppercase Minecraft.create every time for every line of code, every time I needed to use it. So we're just going to use a shorthand variable, MC. So let's quickly move on to the next line. Now for our second to last line of code, we're going to get the player's position, because we need to know where to place this block in the world. So we're going to type player, uppercase POS, which stands for player position, equals MC. So we're using that same variable again, MC.player.get pos, or get position. And since it is a function, we're going to have our two parentheses saying that it's almost like a command in Minecraft. So that's going to say anytime we type the word player pos or player position, it's going to equal just where the player is standing at all times. And for our final line of code, we're going to type our set block. So we're going to type MC.setBlock parentheses, and now this time we're not going to leave it as a function with empty parentheses. We're actually going to type something inside of the arguments. Now setBlock is expecting actually 4 arguments in total. The 3 of them you guys may recognize if you know playing 3D games or 2D games like Mario. That would be expecting 2, which would be X and Y. Now since Minecraft is a 3D game, it is expecting 3 of them, which would be the X, Y, and Z. So we're going to type our first position, which would be player position or player pos, and with the extension of X, so that's our X position. And then we'll type player position dot Y, player position dot Z, and for our last argument, since we have our X, Y, and Z, is going to be the block ID or the type of block we want to place. And we're going to be placing a block dot gold underscore block. Now what that does is that is the name of the blocks. That's why we typed earlier, import mcpy block as block. We're getting all the block information and we're typing it as the block ID, the name of it. Now there's also a different way you can use this with numbers, which I'll explain later, but as if of now, this is going to be our code. And before I move on, this will actually place the block right inside the player. Now if we go back quickly into Minecraft before I finish writing that code, we'll notice we kind of want to place that block in front of us right here, almost as a step block, because at the moment it looks like we can't really jump up. So let's step back on that emerald, and looks like that coordinate is going to be, if I check quickly, is going to be in our Z axis. So I'm going to go back to my code and modify that player position.z to player position.z -1. This should enable us to place the block right in front of the player. So it's very simple geometry, and you can modify any of your coordinates at any time, just adding pluses or minus numbers. So let's go ahead, and once we think we're finished with our code, let's go ahead and hit save. And let's jump right back into Minecraft and let's try it out. Python. So before I move on too quickly, to start or initiate any Python code you've saved on your Notepad++ file, you want to hit the / command for Minecraft and type py or Python space MC, since that was the name of the Notepad++ file, and hit enter. Whoa, there we go, perfect. I was a little worried there. And you can see it spawned that 1 gold block right in front, exactly 1 block away on the Z-axis from the player. Alright, nice, we got our gold block. Let's go ahead and jump right on top and let's see what's on the other side.